What if you feel like you have been constantly in a state of stability, in a state of comfort, where everything is just kind of like it's working out, it's going fine, it's just okay. Have you then ever had this little small voice in your head? Is there not more for me out there? Hey guys, so welcome to this new episode of Complexity of Contrast. I'm so happy that you decided to join today, and today we're gonna talk about a topic, and I honestly love creating these episodes because every time something happens, every time something triggers me, I'm like, oh, wait, I can incorporate this in a new episode, and I think a lot of people can relate to kind of similar situation or yeah, just a state of being. So that is what we're gonna do today. I'm gonna share one of my personal experiences again, and yeah, it is all about playing it safe. But before we are gonna dive into that, let me introduce myself. I'm Anastasia. I'm the host of Complexity of Contrast, and yeah, you're just listening to a brain dump of my experiences, thoughts, feelings. So yeah, if you're interested in getting along with me on this journey to embrace our inner contrast and all the different aspects of our current identity, then let's go. Yeah, I'm excited. So, as I said, today we're gonna talk about the subconscious pattern of playing it safe. During our lives, I think we have been taught that we need to play it safe, that it's better to stay comfortable, to build something stable, than to risk it for something that is not guaranteed to be better. And I get it, like, of course, stability can feel, it can feel amazing. And I believe that we all crave stability in some sort of form. Even though you might not be right now in a moment in your life where you crave that, there probably is gonna be just this one moment where you realize, like, shit, maybe I actually do need and want stability. To me, this realization came like when I was traveling and I was doing all these crazy things and having these adventures, getting to know new people, learning about new cultures, and it was amazing. Literally, I had the best time ever, but without me even realizing, I got kind of stressed out. Moving around all the time and not having something stable, not one friend group, not one job, like it was kind of really feeling happy that I didn't actually build anything, although I think that's up for debate. I mean, I built so many different types of relationships and insights about myself that I am so incredibly grateful for and that I will carry with me for the rest of my life. But what I want to tell you is that even though I never thought I would crave stability, I did in that exact moment. So when I came back to the Netherlands, I realized, like, oh my God, it's so nice to just stay in one place and have one group of people around you and know that every single day you're just going to the same workplace, do the same people, do the same thing over and over again. But having said that, stability can be a really good thing after having periods of time where you felt like literally everything was kind of falling down, where you were constantly having to adapt and change things. Of course, then stability can truly, truly have an impact on your life and it can be so very beneficial for you. But what if you feel like you have been constantly in a state of stability, in a state of comfort, where everything is just kind of like it's working out, it's going fine, it's just okay. Have you then ever had this little small voice in your head? Is there not more for me out there? Is there not something that would align even more with me? That is what we're going to talk about today, because I am kind of done with the mindset that is so focused on minimizing risks. Because that's the whole thing. If you're playing it safe, you're minimizing the risks. And that is so logical. It's literally built in our nature as human beings. And I think within so many different stages in our lives, we were being taught that playing it safe is the way to go. I mean, I remember during high school when we had to like choose your own subjects, they would always encourage you to do the things you were already good at. Not in particular the things you found interesting, because if you were not good at it right away, if you didn't have that like natural ability, you would have to put in more work, struggle more, and somehow a lot of teachers, mentors, they viewed it as why would you put in more work, struggle more, if something comes easier to you? Okay, you might find it less interesting, it might align less with you and what you want, but I mean, just go for the simple thing, you know? And this not only applies to university and schools, it applies to work. Literally, how many times did I get into situations where people would say, but you have a really stable job, why would you give that up? I mean, it pays well, you got regular hours, the colleagues are nice. Like, I literally remember the last conversation I ever had with my boss, and he told me, like, are you really sure you want to leave? Because you're probably never gonna find something as stable. You're probably never gonna find something that pays as good with the same like flexibility you have right now. And I mean, of course, I know like I'm so young, so I knew that it wasn't completely true, but still, like, it kind of hit me like, yeah, why would I give up that stability, that safety I get from this job? And even with traveling, how many people told me when I was like, yeah, I'm going to South Africa at 18, all alone. How many looks did I get? How many comments did I get about, like, what are you doing? Why would you risk your safety? What, like, go with a friend, you know? Like, why would you go alone to a country that isn't considered to be safe, blah, blah, blah? Like, we are taught to live according to safety behaviors. And what I mean with that is so often we have implemented certain actions into our lives, certain thought patterns, just to keep ourselves safe. And that is truly like, it's the most normal thing. We, of course, we want to protect ourselves and we want to protect the people around us that we care about. But what if it's actually more overprotective and causing more harm than you might expect safety to be? But I don't want to tell you that all of these behaviors are bad. I think they're literally necessary to our existence. Like, we cannot live without them. They're just necessary to a certain degree, and it's up to us to decide where that border is. So, what I do want to make clear, like, these behaviors can be very helpful. For example, when your mom says, if you go out tonight, make sure you're gonna bike back or drive back with a friend. Like, don't go back alone after midnight. And that is something that is truly like, it helps you protect yourself. And I know, like, to some people it's like, oh my god, why does my mom says that and blah blah blah, why is she so overprotective, blah. No, but she actually just wants to protect you. She wants to take this measure, and that can be a good thing. And the same thing for if you have experience with unforeseen expenses. Last time you didn't save up anything and you really had a difficult time then to get everything done and find the money and blah blah blah. Of course, right now you have the safety behavior of, I'm gonna save up more and more just in case, because I don't want to end up in a similar situation as last time if unforeseen expenses come up. And that is something that truly helps us protect ourselves and that isn't harmful. So these behavioral patterns can be really beneficial, like they are helping us in so many different situations. But what if we continuously keep living by them to a degree that we do not know how to live without them? And that is where these behaviors and thoughts become more dangerous to us. And this is where it kind of got difficult, because if you're constantly believing that you have to take a certain action, this safety measure, like this rule you have set for yourself, like I have to do this and this in order to be safe, in order to like make the situation work, then you are starting to literally hold yourself back. Because you don't know what would happen if you did not stick to the safety rules you have set for yourself. You don't know how to react in a certain situation. You're like, okay, I'm only safe when I bike back with another person. And because you simply do not know what would happen if you do not stick to the rules you have set for yourself, stick to the actions you have taken to guarantee your safety, then your fearful assumptions will only grow, will only be recognized. And that is something where I think true fear and anxiety comes from. That is why we decide to stay in certain jobs, friend groups, relationships, countries, whatever, because we feel like it gives it, like it provides us a certain sense of comfort and stability, and we do not know what would happen if we decide to take another leap of faith. If we decide to switch jobs, switch study course, switch friend groups, like move to another country, we are just being so caught up in the state of, no, if I lose this, then I don't know how I need to react. I don't know in what it will result. Like, you're just gonna catastrophize. You're gonna like start this doom thinking. And that is where safety behaviors can be harmful to us. Because if we see them as rules that without them, we are just gonna end up in situations that will destroy us, then, you know, then we're just gonna stay in the exact same place. We're gonna keep ourselves small just because we are getting triggered by possible catastrophic situations, you know? And from personal experiences, I mean, this is like, I find it quite a silly example, but I still like, this was actually why I wanted to make this episode in the first place. So I was working at a festival at the bar, and I have done that one time before. And I remember that I was like the cashier, so I had to talk with people, I had to count like all the coins and give them drinks. That was what the function that I was used to, what I was comfortable with, because I did it before, because I already had the knowledge of how it worked, and I just felt safe within that position. And I remember arriving at this bar, and then my manager said, "This time you're not gonna be a cashier, you're gonna stand here." And I felt so much resistance within my body. I literally felt it coming up, like, but like all these doom thoughts of, but I don't know what to do. I have never done this before. What if I fail? What if people get frustrated because I simply do something wrong, simply because I don't know what to actually like do within this function? And what if I'm not capable? What if, no. And before I even realized it, so many subconscious thoughts were created, the situation where everything would go wrong. And then I needed to stop myself, because I was like, okay, I know this is simply uncomfortable. I've never done this. I don't know what to do right now, but Here, it's all about defining your expectations and setting a certain bar for yourself. And what I mean with that, it's literally about your mindset. Because yeah, if I would end up within that other job position, then of course I would minimize risk because I already knew what I was doing. I already felt comfortable doing it. So, I mean, there would be less risk to doing something wrong. That somebody would tell me, like, actually, you need to do it this way, blah, blah, blah. No. And right now, I was in this position where I was simply like clueless. But then I was like, I need to set a certain bar to myself. And that ended up being like, okay, I've never done this. And I might not be good at it right away, but I am just trying to make the best out of it, no matter what. Like, I don't know what if I would end up liking this, but if I go into this with the mindset of like, no, this is not gonna work, blah, 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 no, I'm gonna risk that people would get frustrated, that I would not do the job great, I'm not able to do this. Like, if I would go into it with that mindset, I knew I would set myself up for failure. So instead, I was like, you know what? We're just gonna try it out. Right now, I simply do not, like in this case, I simply did not have a choice. So I was like, we're just gonna gather the courage. We're just gonna do it. We'll see where it goes. We'll go with the flow. And I remember having literally the best day ever. It was amazing. It was literally like so energizing, and I actually enjoyed that job position way more than being a cashier. And that is what I meant. Like, if it was up to me, I would probably never ended up doing that job position simply because I didn't want to risk getting something wrong, not being good at something, having to ask people. Like, I hate asking things to people. And you know what? I think, I truly believe that everything happens for a reason. But this was like literally so mind blowing that I was like, wait, I actually made new friends just because I was standing there and not at the front. I got to talk to so many more people. I got to have so many more different experiences and do something that aligns way more with me than that other job would. And I find that so interesting and so mind blowing, literally. Because we want to keep ourselves comfortable. And I totally get all the anxious feelings that are coming up when you're forced or when you try to force yourself to do something else, to risk something. It feels uncomfortable. You're like, no, I don't want to do this. Like, you literally feel the resistance within yourself. But I find it so incredibly amazing that I'm like, what if I not got this opportunity? Then I would have never known that this would actually fit way better to the person I want to be, what I value, etc. And I know it's just like this silly example, but I know this resonates to so many more different aspects in my personal life. And of course, I know this time I also got lucky. Of course, sometimes the grass is not greener on the other side. And it is all about setting your expectations. I think instead of learning that you have to always go for safety, we need to learn how to manage our expectations. Because even though the grass might be greener on the other side, nothing is ever going to be perfect. Like, there will always be disadvantages to something. So I think that's also up to you to truly be aware of the fact that you might never find the perfect study course, the perfect job, the perfect blah 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 blah, etc. But you can be happy with having the courage to experiment, to have pushed yourself, to risk it, that comfort, that safety. And yeah, sometimes it might not be always worth it. Like, sometimes you're like, oh shit, actually, this doesn't align with me. Maybe my other job did actually fit me better. Maybe my past friend group was more what I was looking for. I mean, we are not guaranteed that if we would risk something, that it would always be better. But I know that from personal experiences, I would regret not risking something more than risking it. And I mean, it might be different for everyone, but yeah, I think that literally by exposing yourself to certain risks without these safety behaviors is what is going to give you the most growth. And not only because you might end up in a situation that is better than your current situation. No, what I want you to be aware of is that trying to be in situations that are exposing you to possible risks is one of the most incredible things you can do for yourself, just because it lets you build trust within yourself. What I mean with that is if you get in a situation and you are not attached to a certain action you have to take, to a certain way you have to think, etc., you literally set yourself free from all the doom thoughts you have had so far. Because you were used to thinking that you had to take that one action. Oh, wait. Because by exposing yourself to these risks without the safety behaviors, you learn that they are not always necessary. You learn to set yourself free, literally. And I think that is so incredible because we all have, like, the most powerful things in life, in my opinion, are trust and courage. I think with trust within ourselves and the courage to do whatever we want to do, that is what's going to bring us further in life. And so many fearful situations that we have made up where we decided we need these safety behaviors to survive them, they're not actually as scary as we might think. And the funny thing is, research also has shown that most of these situations we come up with, most of these safety behaviors that we have created for a particular situation that might be happening, they actually most of the time do not happen. We make them so much bigger and extreme than they are, like they often are. And meanwhile, you keep limiting yourself. You keep continuously having to like grip to these safety behaviors, but releasing them could actually be more beneficial to you. Okay, this might gonna sound silly, but I remember that day when I was working at the bar that people needed drinks and most of them were already like in cans, etc., or I just needed to pour wine, easy peasy. And then I remember that my colleagues actually needed tap beer. And I have had previous experience in hospitality and tapping beers, but I remember that the last time I did it at the festival, it went completely wrong. I don't know, like, it might sound really crazy and simple and strange and blah blah. But I remember that I felt this fear coming up. I was like, oh shit, no, I don't want to do this. I'm just gonna avoid the task. And that was one of my safety behaviors, literally. I was relying on avoiding the task, but meanwhile, the only thing I was doing was maintaining my anxiety for doing it. And I know this is really such a light example, but literally I felt stressed out. Every time a colleague came up to me like, oh, can you tap that beer? I would go up to another person like, hey, could you do that? And I would notice they would get frustrated, like, just do it yourself. And I totally get that. I mean, of course, because the only thing I was doing was avoiding the task myself. I didn't want to be like confronted with the fact that I was not good at it, that I was failing. Meanwhile, I don't know what happened exactly, but I was like, is it worth to every time go up to that person or to just like trust myself into, I'm just gonna try again and again. Like, I cannot expect myself to get it done in one time, to get it right the first time. So I continuously like filled and filled, and it was only foam, and I got frustrated, but at the same time, I was like, no, you know what? Maybe the technique that I was learned there does not work for this tap. And somehow, bum, after trying a couple times, it finally worked. And the thing was, I could have just avoided that task the whole time, the whole shift. I could have just continued asking other people, saying, no, you have to go to that person. But instead, I took the courage and the trust within myself to, like, okay, maybe it will not be right the first couple of times I try it, but I'm still gonna do it. I'm still gonna show up for myself and decide to, like, take action against these safety behaviors that I'm so showing, you know? And it's so interesting that just tapping a beer could give you so many different insights. But I think it's truly beautiful. I think it's almost like a metaphor that I afterwards, like after I got the feeling of it, the hang of it, I, oh my God, I literally felt on top of the world because I struggled, because I showed myself that I didn't need those safety behaviors. I didn't need to avoid the task. I just needed to go fully for it. I needed to give myself the chance to try to risk maybe first failing. And I think that is so beautiful. Like, I mean, it's really strange that tapping beer truly reflects so many different aspects of my life, but at the same time, I'm glad it did. And I think this moment will actually stick with me for quite a while. That the struggle made it even more worthy, even more like I kind of overcame this fear, this thought pattern of I don't want to risk other people getting frustrated, my boss telling me that I spilled this beer, that it's too much foam, that, you know what, I was just incredibly happy that I decided to face what was in front of me, to take the risk that somebody would yell. So, what I want to say is that your comfort zone might be holding you back. And I don't want you to take your comfort zone for granted. I mean, stability, safety, comfort is truly necessary at some times. I believe that we have different phases, and stability phases will always be there, and they're really important, especially after breakdown phases, where everything seems to fall apart, like shatter in a million pieces. But we do need to contrast. That is truly what I believe. Like, if you believe that your whole life is meant to be stable, that you will always be in search for stability, I think that is just an illusion. We shouldn't be living life only to live for stability, because then there would not be any growth. I mean, literally within the breakdown points where you realize, like, is this actually what I want? Is this actually serving me? Is there not more out there? Like, I think that is the point where you reflect, where you decide to take a different action, maybe out of necessity or maybe out of free will. I don't know, but I think that contrast is so extremely important, and we should embrace it. We should not only expect life to be about stability. It's about the fluctuation. And yeah, if we learn to embrace that and trust ourselves that even though we might end up in situations where it wasn't worth risking, even though I think that if the outcome is not what you expect it to be, it doesn't mean it was not worth it, but that's my opinion. I think showing yourself that you have the courage to just try and to know that you will make the best out of the situation no matter what, because you have to trust. You have to trust that it will work out. Even if you don't attach yourself to the safety behaviors that you have been continuously living by, I think that is what makes you a strong person. And yeah, that is, I think, all I want to say for today. So I want to thank you a lot, and definitely leave a review if you feel called to. And yeah, I just hope you enjoyed the episode, and comment definitely what you thought and what your yeah, what your brain dump is after listening to this. So, yeah, I'm really grateful that you decided to join and hopefully see you next time. Bye bye. Bye.